And we're back on your airways, 12 rows back, talking from the footy from the fans' perspective. We're getting to, it's late May, we're getting to the depths of winter. If you'd want your team to have banked a few wins at this point. We're 10 rounds deep. It's all happening. We're approaching that halfway point. Seb, how are you travelling?
Oh, fantastic, Tom. Couldn't be better. I take it from that intro, you won't be potting teams that have banked wins without being super impressive or winning by big margins.
Well, yeah, I know we'll get to it later because there's a certain team I've got in the gun and explaining why they get certain grades, but it was actually more directed at Blues fans. I got word from a couple of Sydney/South Melbourne fans that went on Friday night that it was grand final-esque scene. So don't worry about a lid. That is unrecognisable down on Lygon Street. It's gone, and I don't think it's coming back at 8-2. So it was
Well,
more aimed at the Blues, but there's a few teams that have been banking the win. So
equals second on the ladder.
yeah, flying, absolutely flying, and look, we've potted the floating fixture, but I think they got Friday night well and truly correct because that was what you want to see on a Friday night, a game with a bit more intrigue, a couple of superstars going bang, and the game up for grabs sort of into the last 5 minutes.
Was it up? Well, I'd challenge you on it being up for grabs. It was.
Oh no, I reckon it was definitely up for grabs. Sydney were coming. I mean, they had plenty of chances. 1-5 in the last. They peppered the goals, and the Blues is sort of, it was a bit, to use a boxing term, rope-a-dope. They just copped a few before Zach Fisher went bang from 50 and just steadied the ship. But it was shaky for most of that last quarter.
Yeah, no, the Swans were probably in it up until they gave away 9 goals in the second quarter.
Yeah, that'll do it. I'm telling you though, Seb, they got it into a single-digit margin, and I mean, if they kick the next, Blues heads dropping. I thought it was well and truly up for grabs. Many a Blue fan would probably agree with me, now that they've probably come back down from that cloud. But I genuinely thought it was up for grabs. Maybe it was the Sydney in me, though.
Yeah, I dare say it was. They're equal second on the ladder, Tom. So flying.
Huge.
You can't do much more than that, aside from win every game.
Well, they don't play the Ds or the Lions till sort of round 20 and 21, so they could get on a bit more of a roll. Keep banking the wins.
Collingwood this week, that's the old arch nemesis. It's a huge chance to get another 4 points. 9-2, that sounds good.
At the halfway point. I mean, we're sort of half reviewing the game, first game off the top. It was the headline act. It was a funny old round, wasn't it? I mean, it was.
Well, it was.
Probably the headline games in this one post-Friday.
We can dive into it, but it was Sir Doug Nicholls' round, and we did have Dream Time at the G, which is sort of the marquee fixture of this round.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess you'd say. But it's a good celebration of the culture and the heritage that the Indigenous players have left us over. I think it's ticked on 100 years now since it was the first Indigenous player playing.
It's fantastic. Even just the whole coverage of it, bringing up the stories, chatting to the Indigenous players gone past. I saw, Darryl White's highlights on the front bar on Thursday. Geez, he's got a highlight reel.
It was phenomenal. Great. He was phenomenal back in the early 2000s.
Absolutely, and the jumpers, and just the awareness it brings. So, look, massive pat on the back. I think it's an absolute winner this round, and let's get into it, I reckon, Seb.
Yep, so we'll go back to where we started, Carlton, Sydney. I see this completely differently to you. 9-3 in that second quarter. The game was done at half time. Absolutely done.
You're calling it done. Carlton are known for, this year they're getting those massive leads, and even a 40-point lead isn't safe. So you were comfortable because you're all in on them.
Have they lost any of those games? Have they?
They haven't.
Right.
So that's the debate. Do you put plenty in that they just get the win, don't you? It's not really about that they've lost the margin. If they still get the W, you're okay with it.
Well, yeah. Not okay with it's probably the wrong term. So if you do get a 40, 50-point lead and it comes back to 10, 15 points, it's not a good thing. But the fact you're able to get the run of goals on suggests you're a pretty good side yourself. They did it without Harry Mackay, so there's a fair bit of their forward potency gone. But I don't think he's the best forward in that team. I think Charlie Curnow is a better overall footballer than him. But as a tandem, they're pretty close to the best. It'd be them and the two boys down at Geelong, I think, off the top of my head.
No, I'm fully with you on that. Definitely.
But I like. So there's another game which we'll get to, where a team had kicked 6-7 goals straight, to stay sort of in the hunt on the scoreboard. But Carlton just smashed Sydney, and that is genuinely done by half time. Yet, like, the Swans got back into it, but just look at it, big picture it for me. So it's a lead of 40 points at half time, 40 points, 38 points, 2 goals won to 5 goals 4 in the third quarter. So they bring it back a little bit, and then 1 goal 3 to 1 goal 5 in the last quarter. It's not.
Yeah. Look, I just see it differently because I guess, it was just the run that Sydney had. They were just streaming. They were doing,
So Sydney
the
get
Sydney
credit
game
for
plan
their
was like,
run when the game's over, but Carlton don't credit for their run, which was enough to win.
I don't think you can say game over. There was a couple of kicks in it late in the last quarter.
Carlton had their run, and then Sydney have had a run and still not been able to win.
I'm full of praise for the Blues. Don't worry about that. I just think the game was on the line in that last quarter a little bit.
Yeah, you could
Like,
say
Sydney was
that.
still a chance to win, despite our mate Joshy Kennedy pinging a hammy midway through whacking Doherty. Doherty.
Oh, he barely got him. Barely got him.
Yeah.
Oh no, he got him very clumsily, but knowing Josh all those years ago, he wouldn't hurt a fly.
Nah, that's fair.
In a dirty manner. Look, Kernow's kicked 6. He's. I love him. I love watching him play. Disappointed my team doesn't have him. Cripps was down, numbers wise. Still had an impact at times, but didn't. He's having a lot of games where he's getting 30 and kicking 1 or 2. So he was down a little bit. Buddy kicked a couple of nice goals, Tom.
Yeah, no, he did. He's always. That's the thing. He's always a danger. So I thought the Swans still had the weapons to get it done. But I was sitting there going, all right, the Swans are coming. They've had a good patch here. Who's going to stand up for the Blues? It wasn't actually those midfield blokes that did it. It was Wiedering down back. He just didn't get beaten in one-on-ones. And a bloke called Tom de Koning stood up with 3 or 4 real big contested down-the-line grabs. Now, I know Blues fans love getting A, but this bloke's your future in the ruck. He is an athlete, still learning his craft, but that's a sign. That's game on the line, and you're clunking them. The tall blokes don't get any smaller. He was super impressive. So it was the big boys that got the job done late, I thought, in this one.
Yeah, well, the what's the saying? The tall, big players don't get any shorter as the game goes on, but the runners do get tired, Tom.
Yep, that's it. So, no, hugely impressive for the Blues. The lid is officially off. I'll jump on the wagon. I'll give them a HD for this one. You've just swatted away another, probably a top 4 contender, Sydney, although now there's worries on the Swans. They're in a little bit of a patch.
Are they going to play finals?
Geez, well, there's a few knocking on the door. I still think they'll play finals, but, it's a bit, and we'll get to the Dockers way later, but it's sort of the young group having a little bit of a patch. So, yeah, the Swans are in that. They beat up on a VFL team last week, and the Suns got them the week before that. So, yeah, they're in a little bit of a patch, but I still think they've got finals in them. I will fail them for Friday just because I think I might have tipped them. So there goes my tipping lead.
Tom, no, they don't like Marvel. They do not like Marvel.
Nah, they don't. So I've learnt there, but they can have a fail. So HD and fail, I reckon, in this one.
I hope you don't tip them in a similar 50-50 game at Marvel again, because I know you will. I know you will.
Mate, look, it might be a little family bias coming through there, but anyway.
I know. HD, Blues, fail, Swans. The Blues just... It might take them... They may not learn it this year, but they're going to learn it at some stage the next 1, 2, 3 years to really put the pedal to the metal, or the foot on the throat, and really kill one of these good teams. It's coming. It just, at the moment, they're 8-2 and flying.
Yep. Just keep banking the wins. That's all they can do. Absolutely. So next we head down to my favourite spot, down the highway. Good conditions actually. It was a ripping day Saturday, despite it's getting a little frosty. But Geelong Power. So the bit of praise coming the Powers' way. They'd straightened up before this one with four in a row. I mean,
Tough
win this
ask.
game in the power of 5-5. And it was a tough ask, but everyone's sort of like, oh, if there's an upset this week, it might be the Power. But
Who said that?
I think it might have come from the midweek rub. I listened to that Triple M. I think a few of the
Who
boys in
thought
there were
that
saying
was the
that.
upset? The
Carey,
upset was
Dale, Thomas, Montagna,
Hawthorn.
those boys. Um, Look, it was probably ambitious, but they just got it done. Yeah, we'll get into the game, but just on a little side note, how good was Jezza Cameron's talk at
Was
the
that
three
play on?
quarter? Oh, you reckon? No, I reckon he's got a little bit of an arc, but he's changed the rules around that, hasn't he? Or do you reckon he went outside his line?
No, so because he didn't improve the angle, it's okay. But if he did that same kick from the same spot on the 50 on the other side, because he's a left footer and ran out, it would have been called play on.
Yeah, look.
It's another bizarre rule of our game, depending on where you are in the ground as
Well, I
to
was
what
going
you
to
can
say
do.
good luck umpiring because we just don't help them out with what we give them. But that was a thing of beauty. Like we want to see that more in the game. I don't know. You can't really encourage it to appear, but you just enjoy it when it does bob up. The big one for me though was it was late in the third. Jeremy Finlayson's got a shot to really put some heat on, bring the margin back down. He's kicked it out on the full. Cats run it up the other end. Bang! I think they kicked one more, and then they got Cameron's late, and that's your ball game. I think he kicks that. He might have got it from 14 down to 8, but he misses, and then it was out at 20, and then Cameron kicks it. That's out at 26 at three-quarter time, and you don't tend to come back from that down at the Cattery. So, like that's the Power I think at the moment. I mean, yeah, they've sort of got a run. The good quality win against the Saints, but who else have they beaten? They got the Roos and they've got the Eagles and the Dogs. I think who weren't flying at the time, so they've still got a little bit to work through. I reckon the Power and the Cats just sort of said, look, we're still making finals, so don't worry about us. We'll get the job done.
Yeah, the Power need Dixon. They need
Yeah,
Charlie Dixon back and firing, although he has a habit of firing against the not so good teams and being well held against the better ones, but just from a structural point of view, he straightens them up. But like, say what you will, the Cats down in Geelong are still a tough ask. And Port, they're an average football side. That's where they started. Lost to some good teams, but still lost, and then won games they should have, and they're 4-6, and that feels about right based on what we've seen. They're in that. There's a whole host of teams hunting for sort of eighth. It's one of Sydney or Richmond are going to drop out if one of these teams gets in. But you've got the Suns, the Power, the Dogs, the Pies, the Hawks.
Hawks, yeah.
All sort of hovering, and just one of them will take the chance and probably get belted in the first week of the finals. But it's something to sort of you can give a sense of purpose to your season playing for that eighth spot, especially if you're like Collingwood or Hawthorn or the Suns, one of those young lists who, at the start of the year, not many would have predicted to sneak in, whereas the Dogs and Power should be embarrassed. They're still fighting for that spot based on where they were last year.
Good wording there.
But just straight back up to this game. Tyson Stengel's given Geelong something different that they sort of
absolutely
haven't have. Cam Guthrie was back to his best, which I don't know if he's an injury hampering him or not, but he was electrifying all over the ground. Danger subbed out. He's just not.
Yeah,
just not his year, Danger.
Kind of neat. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to wrap him in cotton wool and call the year off, but he could do with a month of refreshment, I feel, out of him. I feel like, there's a bit of, like, he's got a high standard of performance because he's a champion, and I feel like there's just the weight to get back to that level. I don't know if he even maybe needs a run being recreated as a forward for a while just to I don't know, take some of that weight off, because I think he just sort of is playing hurt, and it's
so
it's not
you agree with Kane Corns he needs to lose weight.
I thought I was wondering if you'd bring that up. I knew that he said that. No.
You just said
I'm
take
not
some of that weight off.
I mean the club's weight that they put on his back to perform it. He's a Brownlow medalist, and they're not getting any younger, so they need him at his prime form. So I don't have any issues with his weight, and I don't think you and I can go into that turf of telling people to lose weight. So he's a fit athlete. I'm not worried about that. I think Cornsy's having a shocker there, but
Well,
yeah,
to defend Cornsy for a minute, Corn, he's one of my favourites. His point was not that he's overweight, but as you get older, you cannot carry as much weight. It puts more stress on the body. So he might need to just get a little bit leaner to have more of an impact. It wasn't a lose weight. It wasn't a...
Yeah, mate, look, we might be guilty of the old media cycle. Just can take a little thing for a spin there and it gets out of hand. But yeah, I'm with you. He's fine. But I think, look, they're probably not going to rest him because they still need to win games and bank those. But yeah, he might enjoy a spell as a forward for a touch, I reckon.
Might rest him against the Crows at home next week.
Another game down at the Cattery. Geez, they look after them well.
Yeah. Grade-wise, you pass the Cats and fail the Power?
I'm happy with that, yep.
Yeah, I couldn't quite distinction them just based on they're in the upper 8 and the Power are fighting for the 8 and Kenny Hinkley's job. He's going to hold on for another few more weeks at this rate, but don't worry, Kenny. We're coming.
Scalp.
Across the... I was going to say across the pond, but just sort of...
Cross-regional, maybe. Inland
or slightly north, I guess you'd say. I wish we knew the electorates, Tom. That would have been relevant based on the weekend.
Actually,
but
true.
The Dogs hosted the Suns in a game that blink and you'll miss this one.
It did. I mean, it got lost. Power versus Geelong was probably the second best game of the round. So this one got lost behind that.
Yeah, but I can tell you one other thing. The Dogs are not a good team to watch.
They're not box office anymore, are they?
Well, they're well drilled in terms of this is how you go in low to win a free kick. And it's just, you can't say they're necessarily not there because they're getting hit high, but it's not great to watch when they're doing this shot. Like, all of them are doing it. Every single one of the Dogs. And then they throw it around and then let it go, and then they get tackled and it's a free kick, and it's not good to watch.
It's funny too because it's not. Two of their worst exponents of it in Cody Waitman and Toby McLean weren't even out there. So that just sort of says the level that it's just filtered into the team. I mean, what do you take with the Dogs? Would you prefer them to throw it like they did in 2016?
Oh, they're still doing that. They're still doing that. Oh,
so that's still happening too. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, it's annoying because I think they're getting some... the floating fixture for the rounds that we haven't booked in, I think, has the Dogs sort of getting more prime time, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. I think they might be in a couple Friday nights. So hopefully they change that. It might all be based on big Aaron Norton, who had an absolute ripper game. He's box office, but that's just about it, I reckon, for the Dogs in terms of what you'd enjoy watching.
Bontempelli?
Bont, yeah. No? Let me get there. Jeez. Bont is a star, but yeah, you're talking two players. It's not like the NBA. We've got 22 out, 18 on the field. So, you take the great moments, and that's what got them home in this one. Those two blokes, Norton and Bont, they did the job.
6 goals, 4 between them.
Exactly. I'll throw a name at you, Seb. Joel Jeffries. Does it ring a bell? You're probably thinking, did I vote for him on the weekend? I do not know who this bloke is. He's bobbed up for the Suns and kicked 5.
He has. He's at the top of my list down here with all the stats. That's the only reason I didn't go who.
Career game.
He's got a good heat map as well. All in from 0 to 30 from goal. That's his heat map. That's where he spent his time.
Jeez, that's almost old school, isn't it?
10 touches, 10 kicks.
If you keep close to goal, you might kick a few. I think we want to see the big bags come back. So let's see that come back into our game. But yeah, look. What do you give this one? Cold afternoon in Ballarat. It's probably a double pass, isn't it? Game went as we expected. Or
yeah, it is.
Give the Suns a bit of credit because it's a long journey for them.
I'm impressed with the Suns. They're still irrelevant, just in terms of fan base and everything else, and that won't change. That won't change. I'm going to keep reminding everyone. But I thought Stewie Dew would be 1 foot out the door by now, and with wins over Sydney and Freo, and then travelling on the road, come down there. These are the games the Suns get done by 70 points, and you don't think twice about it. And they've dug in and fought on and gone down by a few goals. So they're set up really well for the back half of the year, because normally by this point of the year they're cooked.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, they're really impressed with where the Suns are going. And I'd be very close. So internally, I'd be having discussions saying, unless something goes drastically wrong, we are keeping Stewie Dew.
Jeez, you've gone off that. He was your number one target in the summer.
It
Now
wasn't a
you've
target. It was
called on
just a
him.
logical sort of conclusion that
Well,
they're
that's
going
fair.
terrible.
But no, you reckon he's safe now?
Well, it's not so much he's safe in the sense of you should only sack your coach if there's an upgrade available, right? And there's no chance Clarko's going to decide to go there, in my opinion. But what happens is you get trigger happy, and Richmond of old, before Dimmer came on. Richmond and Geelong are two great examples. Like Richmond you had Danny Frawley, you had Terry Wallace, Jeff Geeshan, and they just never had enough time to really drill something in. And then Dimmer comes on and they played 3 finals and then missed the finals. That was it. And they backed him in. Geelong, Bomber Thompson, played some finals, lost in that prelim with Nick Davis, and then 06 review, backed him in. And they've done real. Carlton, they went from Brett Ratton sort of did pretty well. We need something better. Sacked him Malthouse. That didn't go well. Sacked Bolton. Teague. Oh, gee. If you turn over your coaches and they're not the right coach, you're in a world of hurt. That's one of the reasons North have been so far backwards this year is Brad Scott was great. And we just didn't get there. And after 10 years, it was enough. And Kenny Hinckley's now gone past him for most games coached at one club without a grand final appearance.
You seem so happy about that. I like that.
But we then, Brad left midway through the year after we rolled the Dogs, and Reece Shaw was a caretaker coach, and then we kept him on. Didn't really go through a due process, and he stayed on for all of a year and then gone. And then Noble comes in, and that's 3 voices in the space of 2 years.
Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it?
It just kills your club. Coaching's a long game. It's not coaching quick turnover. Suddenly you're going to be going all right. It's a long game. And for the Suns, they've done a bit of this. Bluey McKenna sacked because they weren't going on quick enough. Rocket, that didn't go well. Gone. Now Stewie Dew. I don't think there's another one in there. And he's finally had enough time, and they're finally doing some things, and they've got some talent, and then they're going to add in a top 5 key forward into the team next year.
Top 5 like draft or top 5 in the competition?
In the competition.
Yeah, wow. I like hearing that.
Well, top 5 young key forward. We'll give him some time coming back off the ACL. But to add that into a team that's sort of peppering around sort of 12th to 8th suggests they're going to be good. And then you got Anderson and Rowell and Lukosius and Rankin. And, some of those kids who just get another year of experience, another 20 games under the belt. And I really like what they're doing. And you can't go and re-sign him now because we're only into round 10. But you're saying behind closed doors, we should be keeping him. Unless there's a too good to believe offer that, Chris Scott wants to come up here. He has to be a really good coach, suddenly wants to just come up and coach your club. You're not. There's no point moving on. You'll set your club further back. I'd be getting ready to re-sign Stewie Dew, come around 18, 19, and then take the pressure off and let them have a crack at that final 8 spot or playing in a final.
There it is. I like it. It is amazing on this show. I reckon we talk about the Suns more than some of the bigger in quotation marks. You can't see that if you're podcasting. I did it on the YouTube 12 rows back. Check us out. We talk about them a lot, and I love it because I think we want them to go well. It's good for the game to have a team up there cracking into that market. I like it, Seb. Let's go back down to Melbourne. It was North versus Narm on Saturday, so good initiative from the D's. Speaking of Indigenous round, probably could have extended the branch to North Melbourne and you could have done it together, but that's the way the D's roll. This one, well, I say it. Look, it wasn't up for grabs because we know the quality of the D's. But
wait, so this one wasn't up for grabs, but it was within a kick midway through the third quarter.
Yeah, well, third quarter. We're talking third. There's still a lot of footy to go, Seb. Unless, all right, I'll throw you a bone. You were in the game.
Hang on,
just to make you feel a little bit better.
I don't think we were in the game, but the more time left, the bigger the margin can be because you got more time to peg it back.
Well, it goes both ways. You could have kicked away. Got on a little bit of a run.
Well, we did get on a run. We kicked 2 or 3 in a row. It's big for us.
Yeah, no, you were plucky. I enjoyed your form in this game. I like Zerha. He could. I mean, he kicked three. He was active. I like the way he went about it. He was huge. A couple of incidents, I think, in this one though that still sting you. I think Taron Thomas's tackle on Ed Langdon's a play on 9 times out of 10, but it just happened that this one uh, ended up being a free kick. And then if you have a look on the 12 rows back in, so we have basically a carbon copy that happened today that was play on. So that didn't help you early on, did it?
No, well, look, there were instances. I mean, I've seen Luke Davies-Uniacke did the old throw it back to the player, but he sort of basketball style shot it to him. And that was 50. I didn't know that was in the rule book. But, like, it's sort of common sense. Don't give the umpire a reason to pay the 50. It's frustrating as a whole. But if you look at all the key indicators, the Ds were 4-4 to our 3 straight and then 8-9 to 6-1 at halftime. But they were double the inside 50s. They were smashing us through the clearances. They just hadn't sort of kicked away. And it was good for us to fight on. Like, we haven't fought... Most games I've watched... And ironically, I didn't get to watch this live. It was my wedding anniversary. I watched the first quarter and had to go and caught up this morning. But we've been cooked at quarter time, down 4 or 5 goals. Like, that's been sort of the modus operandi. And it wasn't like that. We've stuck in on the scoreboard. We were fighting it out. And just no one expected us to win. I thought we were sneaky because we don't lose to Melbourne at Marvel, and we still haven't. We lost an arm at Marvel, so that streak's intact.
You'd go there. I knew you'd go
but no, full credit to the D's. They've banked another win. They're ticking along. 30 scoring shots is a nice number. And both clubs move on to next week. Tom, it's probably a double pass. I'm going to pass North because they did fight on, and the D's it's a pass because they got the job done without getting out of second gear. Because the wins in May are not important to a premiership defence, Tom.
Yeah, look, that's fair grades from you there, Seb. I'm going to go a different way. I'm going to give your boys a distinction. Real plucky effort, to be single digits in the third quarter. That is amazing, knowing where your club's been this year. So I've got to pat you on the back there. Bailey Fritsch is going about it quietly. I think he's top 30, maybe even top 20 in the Coleman. I barely noticed him. So he's just been quietly kicking his 2, his 3, getting the job done, being a target. I mean, yeah, I guess I'm waiting for him to explode and sort of kick a big bag. But yeah, the D's are sort of in cruise mode, so that doesn't matter. Now I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna fail the D's, and I want to explain it because there's people that see this grading and winning and losing in black and white, but I like to see it in colour, and there's more to it than just winning. So it's a compliment to the D's. They've reached a level where an 8-goal win against the 17th side doesn't cut it for me, Seb. I hold them to a higher standard than that. I thought this was a 100-point win for sure. The D's have the firepower, the talent. I mean, Oliver had 43. That's almost a PB for him. And this was going to be a 100-point win. So, they cracked the ton just with a point from Bowie late, and they beat the second bottom team by 47. I expected more. I hold the D's to a higher standard. Yeah, you can have your win and you can see it in black and white. Or if you win, you got to pass. But they're better than that, the D's. They're 17 straight. Our mate Shem says they're going to go undefeated, and that's a guarantee. So I'm holding them to a higher standard, and I've got to fail them.
Yeah, I love that you're sticking to this, and obviously you're entitled to grade how you want, Tom. Did you come up with that grade before or after the game?
Well, technically before, because I guess I was expecting it to be 100 points. So that was my criteria. 100 points is pass, and if it was more, I could have gone higher. And they didn't quite get there. I mean, yeah, we're hanging on that 8 points in the third, but, if you're not going to get to 100 from there. So, I was disappointed in the D's. I've got them at a high bar, Seb, and they failed to reach it again. So I'm consistent. They didn't smash the Eagles, and they didn't do the smashing of the Eagles, I thought, and they didn't smash your boys as I thought.
Yeah, so just so you know, it was 74 inside 50s to 34. Like 30, that's not many.
So what
50,
you're telling, so they're inefficient. So they didn't play that
51
well.
clearances to 32, 38 to 22 stoppage clearances. North had more of the ball. We tried to possess it, kick it round, and what?
You see, what I'm hearing is that you're allowed to play your way, and Melbourne had heaps of the ball in good spots and didn't
Yeah.
punish you on the scoreboard. So that's disappointing to me.
No, that's fine. You're more than welcome to it. I can tell you what the D's did do, and if you want to watch out for this, I guess coaches can do this. But North tried to possess it and kick it round and hold on to it, and then always looking corridor for that chance to kick and go. And the turnovers would have hurt us. But the D's with their zone defence, they just rest. So it's going from one side to the other, and some players have to move and shuffle, but they're getting a lot of rest while you're doing it. So when there is a turnover, they can go. And, a team like North just we're never going to be good enough at this point of the development. But, I just... Tom, they're cruising. They're going to win the flag.
I have no
but
doubt.
They're handing in papers that are just passing them. P's get degrees, and they're going to do that, and then their final presentation or assignment will just blow you out of the water.
Yeah, look, that's probably fair. Maybe I thought Einstein's walked into the class and they're going to give me absolute magic every week, but they're not. So I'll deal with that, Seb. Interesting, by the way, little side note, the D's will play in a day grand final this year. It's going to be 2:30, the traditional slot. So we'll see who the D's get matched up on when we reach there. But that one's good for the Melbourne fans. I hope they turn out to it in their home state.
D's Blues grand final will be a big one.
Yeah, that's getting a lot of airtime. The D's will be there for sure. Where do you want to go next? Because we had two games. Well, let's stay at the G. Let's go to Dreamtime at the G. The Bombers v the Tigers. Marquee game. Hard to tell the teams apart.
Is it a marquee
visually.
game? I think Richmond have won the last 11 or 12. Surely this should be given to someone else.
You reckon rotate it round? That's not a little Good Friday coming out of you?
Oh, my word, it is, Tom. Of course, it shouldn't be rotated round. They've decided to go out and build this up with some of the great Indigenous players of both clubs. Obviously, Rioli's a name that rings true with both. But a little tongue in cheek. But the fact of the matter is, 7-4 to 11-14. Haven't won. It's been 12 in a row. They haven't won. If you want to move some around, you got to move all around, don't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, you called for the granny to be rotated. It's been interesting seeing this game up in Perth and Darwin over the last couple of years. Now, I know they wanted to get back to the G, but do you want to see this one rotated around?
Oh, no, by no means do I think it should be. I just... The narrative when North play Good Friday is that it should be rotated because we're not going well. But... And this isn't any one fan base, it's the media, but come to this game, Richmond and Essendon have pioneered it, so we have to keep it there even though Richmond have won the last 12. No, I don't recall it being close either. Like there might have been one, I just don't recall any, and I don't think of this as a great... this is very different to Anzac Day where both teams come out and put their best foot forward. I don't recall this one ever being like a classic.
Yeah, I can think of maybe only one, maybe with Richo doing something late, pretty early on in its inception. But I'm with you. I hope you keep that Good Friday game. You've got to get a chance to build it. You need, this game's had 10, 12 years straight. So you need to get a run like that. I mean, Anzac Day had the advantage. I guess you had 95 in the first one. It was always going to take off after that. But you just need a couple of good ones in a row and you'll straighten up. I'm interested, Seb, from what I've seen of this game. So we wanted the Bombers to show some fight, but I'm actually more concerned that there were 50 arrests at this game. It was an unruly old night, this one. They're not, I was going to say Yobbo, Richmond maybe, not so much Essendon fans. I don't know what that's about. Is it a little Bombers fans on edge and being a little bit precious given where their team's at?
Was it 50 Essendon fans?
I don't know.
I don't think this sort of behaviour is unique to one fan base. It's just that there's a general sense of entitlement from the AFL fans. Some of them, there's a percentage of them that believe they can turn up to the footy, say what they want, drink as much as they want, and behave however they want because they paid for a ticket. the fact there were 50 this night is high, but they got a bigger crowd to this game than they would normally. So does that have an impact? Like, you don't often hear of arrests at certain games. Like, it doesn't get reported. But, like, you've just got to deal with all those offenders swiftly and harshly, and 12-month bans, repeat offenders, 5-year bans. Like, you've just got to go really harsh and not waste any more time with it, because it's not supporter bases or fan bases. It's a percentage of AFL fans that are just entitled wankers.
Yep. Well said. I like that. Let's get back on the field. So there was a little bit of fight from the Bombers. Obviously, an early goal from Nick Bryan, if I'm saying that correctly. Not a familiar name to me, but he's dobbed one early, and I think Big Nank, your mates, run through, and it's turned in a little bit of an all-in.
Did Nank run through, or did he just think he was going to his teammates? Because both teams were just wearing black.
Well, I said it before. This was like, we love the jumpers, but you do know who you're playing in this round. So, maybe just go something that doesn't clash with the team you're playing. It's in a round where they're hand-picked jumpers. We could have done something there, but anyway, we'll never see it with two Victorian clubs. But
it's probably not great that the two teams with their jumpers being a sash are scheduled. Like, they're always scheduled for this round. So no matter how you design it, their primary jumper is black with the sash. So if you base it off that, they're always going to clash, and they seem to. But look, the fight from Essendon. So this got a bit of criticism, and rightly so, if you believe what's been said. So Essendon didn't fight back last week when Dylan Shield got that, everything from Parker and everything else. And a big deal was made out of it because it was on Channel 7, and everyone likes to talk about the Bombers when they're going terribly, me included.
Yep.
Dyson Heppel gets rolled out on the couch on Monday, and he sort of says, well, if we retaliate and give away another free kick, that just hurts the team, and it's not what we want to be. We want to retaliate in the contest and win the hardball. And he said all this stuff, right? And then on Saturday night, it comes out, and they get the chance to, and they just go hammer and tile, and Draper's in there throwing people around, and suddenly there's Biffo on, and then they get criticism for going against what the captain said on Monday night, which I understand, but this is where I'd love the media to actually have a brain and dig a little bit deeper, and just go, like, okay, this is what Dyson said in the interview, but why do you think he said that? Like just think out loud here, Tom. I'm going to think out loud with you.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were talking rhetorically.
No, I was. I'm just sort of gathering my thoughts on this a little bit, but he couldn't say, "Oh yeah, no, we should have gone up and stood up for Shield and got into Parker. We should have done that. We just didn't because we're insipid or we're just going through the motions." He couldn't say that.
No, he can't. Yeah, well,
he pretended he hadn't seen the incident, right? He clearly had seen the incident and been prepped by the media department, and this is how we're going to explain it to look like we put some thought into it and we didn't want to do anything stupid. But this is what the coach is saying. That was a weak display. Our club doesn't stand for that. If one of our own's getting taunted or attacked or hit or bumped off the ball, we need to stand up for it. And if that happens again on the weekend, if any one player decides it's not my turn to go or I'm not going to get involved, they're going to be dropped. I would guarantee you something like this has happened. And so when it comes up, they've gone in and done what they should have done the week before. So the pile on, if you believe exactly what Dyson said, then yes, you can pile on. But especially the media that's ex-footballers, this drives me nuts. You know the players are media trained. You know that they're not going to tell the full story. But then you just believe them at face value to suit your own narrative to then dive in. They couldn't win based on that. If Dyson's telling the truth, and they couldn't win because they would have looked really weak if they didn't stand up and have a go on the weekend. So it goes back to, should he have been doing that interview to start with? Like, was it poor from the Dons to send him in? Because either way, he couldn't really win. He can't pot his own club, but he's going to put something up there that they have to do on the weekend. So they've put someone up. They put someone up to sort of go, yep, we're going terribly. We'll send the captain in. But To be honest, it's probably someone at board level CEO who just got a contract extension that probably needs to front up and go, "Yep, things aren't going well."
Well, was that
But
deliberate? Talking of contract extensions, because they did just renew their CEO.
no, well, there's someone in the club who really isn't happy with how things are going, and he leaked that, or he or she, whoever it is, would have leaked that because no one at the Bombers would have wanted that to get out right now.
Yeah, it was shocking
But
timing.
whoever
So
had the
yeah,
source, like someone must believe he's the problem, and found that out and leaked it out to try and then have some pile on come because obviously Essendon wouldn't have announced that if that's just happened. But look, I wouldn't even be surprised if on the couch guests were booked more than 2 days in advance, Tom.
well, no, well that's also true, obviously. But I mean, the club can be like, oh look, this probably isn't ideal, Dyson. Maybe go easy, or they can train him up. So they obviously trained him
They
up
would
and
have
prepped
trained him up. They don't want to shy away from the interviews, but I mean, I've said it before. I don't listen to player interviews because they're just boring because they're trained up and they don't say anything new or interesting. It's only when they come out of playing footy and then they get retired and do a few sports and nights and then work out how good these stories are, then they start telling the full story. But yeah, it was a hiding to nothing. And I'm glad for the club, I'm glad the players stood up and had a go and dipped in, even if they weren't good enough on the scoreboard. They showed they cared.
Yeah, well, that's all you can ask for, isn't it, from them? So, but look, to go back on the game after that, Richmond just got rolling basically. So they came out the Bombers, but after that, they really just couldn't straighten up and get the result. I know, Parrish had his 44, which is huge, but they just had too many answers, the Tigers in the end. And look, not a perfect night for them. I think they lost Lambert, and they might have lost Lynch actually for a lot longer. So it wasn't perfect for the Tigers, but I mean, where do you sit with the grades on this one? Because I'm leaning towards a double pass. We have digressed from the actual game, but it's your classic double pass. The Bombers, you're happy with their effort and what they brought. Obviously, Prestia, he's having a great season for them and getting him back in full fitness, and Jaden Short as well. But I can't see
No,
out of a double pass for this one.
I'd still fail the Bombers because I thought they were going to bounce back a little bit more given they were whacked. They were whacked on the scoreboard. They were whacked by the media. They were whacked every which way you could have been whacked. And I thought they were going to give a little bit more. And to only kick, was it 7 goals?
Yeah.
I,
No, yeah, 7-6. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and then this is going to sound harsh. I probably should pass them, and I think I'll upgrade them to a pass, Tom, a post marking upgrade.
Mid-game review.
Because I was about to say
like
only 7 goals is clearly not good enough, but no Stringer. Tib and Woody's just retired, and well done on his career. He came in at a time where things weren't great at the club, and he's, sort of left at a time when things aren't great either. But he gave some hope when the Bombers fans probably needed it the most. Hooker retired. Harrison Jones, not play. They're their 4 leading goal kickers last year, I think. So no surprises they're not kicking goals. And well done to Richmond. You've beaten another bottom 10 team. Your 6 wins are all bottom 10 teams. Like, you're going beautifully.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I want to see. Yeah, we all want to see Richmond against some cream of the crop to really see where they're at. But you can only beat who's out there.
This is where they're at. They're no good. They'll beat the worst sides because they've got 20-odd premiership players playing in each game. They know their game plan. They know what's happening. So they're going to beat the worst sides, but they're not good enough against the best, and that's why they're 8th.
Do they hold on to 8th? Are you
I reckon they'll
put
finish
your neck
9th,
out? Are they going to
9th?
9th? Oh, I set you up for that one nicely. Look, let's move on from this one. Let's get to
Sunday.
What I'll call
Sunday
is
yet?
yeah, we could, because this game was, if you weren't following the election, you probably was flicking onto the Dreamtime game, and if you weren't looking at that, you probably weren't flicking over to 503 if you've got Foxtel. I did
Doctor
catch it
Strange
there.
too.
Yeah, exactly. You were busy, so don't blame you for there. And I can keep this one reasonably brief if you'd like, Seb, despite my excitement. But it was your classic. Look, before we get to the game, I got to say we actually, and I watched it in a Saints house. I'll admit that we actually had large sections of this game with the TV on mute. We got Dwayne Russell, we got Mark Prosciutto, we got David King. It wasn't a great night in terms of the Fox delivery there, but I'm digressing. No, look, it was
So we've done almost a minute and you haven't actually spoken about the game, but do continue.
Just giving you a little picture. Right? This is me being quick. No, look, Look, it was nice. One team kicked 9-14 or 9-15, and it wasn't the Saints. So I've watched plenty of games of us on the TV where we've been inaccurate, haven't had a forward who's been able to kick straight, and you lose a game that you shouldn't lose, a la Cairns last year and Cairns this year. But Big Maxi King bought his A-grade kicking boots. He's kicked 6 straight in a PB. I should actually read out, Seb. I had this one prepared earlier. I'll just give you a list of names. Lockett, Salmon, Dunstall, Carey, Favola, Lucas, Brown, Tom Lynch of Richmond, and Max King. They're the only blokes in the history of our sport to kick 6+ in WA and in South Australia as the visiting team. So
In the same year or just for a career?
No, just in a career. So he's in some heavy company there. He at one stage he had 5 of our first 7. So he's the best young key forward in the comp.
I don't know if he's the best in his own family, Tom.
Well, we can't judge that this year. But he's kicked 6. He's literally won the game for us off his own boot. He was huge. Brad Crouch has sort of showed the Crows what they've been missing. He was massive. Cam Wilkie got a little write up from the AFL this week, and he also showed the Texan how it's done. We were lucky though because the Crows had plenty of opportunities. McHenry had a shot late to sort of bring it back from 8 to 2. He missed, and then we've sort of kicked a couple out of Ryder and Marshall late to sort of juice this one out to 21. But it was a tough watch, and we really just needed to guts this out. I'll use an analogy, Seb. It's a Premier League one. You just need to win the Tuesday nights in Bolton or Stoke. They're the tough ones. It's not fun to travel. It's cold. But if you're a good team, you get the points and you just get out. So that's just what we did. Got the win. We were sitting 8th on the live ladder at one stage, and this one's jumped us back up, I think, to 5th. So it's just important to keep that buffer on the Dogs and Power knocking on the door. But yeah, plenty of luck for the Crows. I don't really know a whole lot of the names in their team, Seb, I've got to be honest. They're throwing around Saligo and James Rowe and Strawn in the ruck and Hinge and Murray, and they're not household names yet, but there's a bit of a young core growing there. McAdam's probably another one. They just didn't have that polish. So it's a pass for the Saints and a pass for the Crows after all that, but it was get your points and get out this one for us.
Yeah, which is what you need to do, which is why I'm stunned. So we've got the Saints coming into this having won 6 of 9. Flying, playing Adelaide, who have won 3 of 9. So you would have expected the Saints to win by, 40, 50, 60, 70 points?
No, Adelaide were plucky against Brisbane last week, so I was just happy with a 4-goal win, I think. And what was this one? 21? That's about a 4-goal win.
Yep. Adelaide are not a good team. They have some players, they do some things, but if the Saints were serious top 4, this wouldn't have been close at three-quarter time. I'd give you a double pass. Still well done. You've got to bank the win and move on. But if you want to be critical of teams like Carlton dropping leads and Melbourne only winning by 47 points, you'd want to do a little bit more. Then Adelaide's lead of, 9 points at
based on that
time, but 9 behind.
Fail us then. Should we fail?
No. I wouldn't fail you for winning by 21 on the road against a team you traditionally don't win against.
All right, you've AFL umpired me. You've had it both ways there.
Have I?
I don't mind it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Tom.
No, look, feel free to fail a team that wins, Seb. It's a bit of fun. It's good. There's more to just the winning for me. So
they've had more inside 50s and more scoring shots, the Crows, which suggests they were much more in the game than 21-point loss. So
it was an arm
wrestle.
All
right. You'll just have to text me the grade you need before we start, and I'll give the Saints that.
Go on, Seb. Well, let's. I'm interested to hear your grade next week. Look, we're into us.
Well, next week you've got to win by 80, 90 points for a pass, don't you? You're playing North, who are terrible.
Well, the standard I've set,
the
we're
Ds
not
are
quite
average.
as good as the Ds.
Well,
we're
the
not
D,
good.
you've said it. The Ds aren't going well. They're only playing 2 quarters and winning. The Saints are flying. I'm surprised this wasn't another HD. And
I
now
haven't
you're
said we're going to
playing
go
North.
undefeated, and I haven't booked in a granny ticket like most D's fans have. So they're a better team than us at the moment, the D. So just putting that out there, but I'll give a fair grade like I do every week.
We'll be
What?
live on next week after the Saints Roos game. We should
Oh,
put that out there.
bring that on. That'll be magnificent. Magnificent's probably too strong. This is one for the fan groups only. The Giants versus the Eagles. 2:10 slot, I think this one was on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, this was not a set your watch style sort of game, but the Eagles battled on. It was just, I haven't seen a game this free flowing.
Yeah, it was loose, wasn't it?
Well, I was about to say, when was the last time you saw 200 points kicked in one game? And it literally happened in the game directly after this.
Yeah,
But I think there were two different reasons, because there was 71 free kicks in that game, which I'm going to bring up when we get to that game. But it was 7-4 and then 14-5 at half time. So game was pretty much done then. It ended up 21-12 to 13-8. So the West Coast have still kicked 86 points and they've lost by 52. For first win for Spike McVeigh. It looks a little different now. Lost the feathers on top. But it's just so hard to grade the Eagles games, Tom.
Well, I mean, what did you expect going in? This screams double pass for me. So
Yeah,
I didn't.
I would double pass. I actually thought the Eagles might have pulled something out and been a little bit closer, but 14-5 at half time, 14 goals to 5 goals at half time suggests Dunzo. But yeah, it's a double pass, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
double pass.
The ball just
yeah.
pinged around. You just obviously neither of these teams are really fighting out for much this year, but you can't just you don't often see a team kicking 21 goals.
No, exactly. Well, look, it was enjoyable to watch from that point of view, I guess. Tim Kelly's probably leading the Eagles BNF. I don't know what you make of that, but you'll take that. Yeah, he's playing well too. Caniglio was back for the Giants. He had it on a string. I'll give you some names, Seb. Green, Sproul, Bruin, and Peatling. They all kick multiple goals, so they're not household names, but they're a little bit of a shining light to the future for the Giants. So, look, where do you sit with their list? If you're Clarko, I mean, would he love this kind of list to come in? I mean, there's talent on there.
There's lots of talent there. It's harnessing it, and I don't know. I just couldn't. If I'm Clarko, I couldn't go from Hawthorn, big club, to a Giants where they're just missing. They're just missing something. They just feel very manufactured, even though I'm a big fan of what Leon Cameron did in his time there. I mean, Josh Kelly's had 29. He's had 9 tackles as well, leading tackle getter on the ground. How often does someone have 29 but still lead the tackles?
It's surprising in this game too, given how free flowing it was as well.
Yeah,
player like that having an eye.
I mean, Caniglio's still got years ahead of him. Tom Green, Toby Green's not old in the traditional sense. And then you've got, it's hard, Riccardi's coming through. Let's say Brad Hill, Bobby Hill, who's desperate to get out of there, we believe. That's true.
No, it is. I just like the way that you said it. He's desperate to get out of there, like they've caged him up.
He tried to get out last year, and he's going to try again this year, I believe.
True.
That's what sources tell me in the media. It just, I don't know. It's a job for whoever takes on the Giants list. Like, there is some talent there, but you just don't know enough of it. You sort of got to really do your homework on some of those other kids, because they got those first round picks in the Jeremy Cameron trade, and they're still using them. They're still using these picks, and there'll be players on the list that we just haven't seen enough of.
Yeah, that is half a credit to them though, that they've been able to do that. They're on that train. They top up with youngsters. Fatten them up for market, I guess, and then trade them back out when a big Victorian club comes knocking and just get more picks. So, look, it's a smarter way to manage your list than what the Suns are doing, but at some stage they need to keep them, load them up, and have a crack at September. But look, for now we'll double pass them and move on down to Tassie. So Hawks versus Brizzy. Now, I did say that the sort of power with the the upset chance. But the Hawks are sneaky one in this one, and they proved us that tipped them, not me. I didn't tip them, but they knocked my socks off with an upset win here, and a genuine callback to the '90s with the triple figures on
Brisbane.
both sides.
Yeah, oh, I thought you
Unbelievable.
were going to say the Brisbane Bears style
Well, and the Bears too,
Indigenous
actually. Great
jersey.
jumper, that one, by the way. The Bears jumper and the one we saw today.
Yeah, so it was a cracking contest, and it was back and forth. Like the Hawks, the Lions got out, the Hawks pegged them back. Hawks got in front by a little bit. Lions got out in the third quarter. It's 4 points of difference at 3/4 time. Lions kick the first. Hawks get out by 20 points. Lions come back. It's a 5-point win. Both clubs are probably at pretty different stages of list and development and everything else. But I love Mitch Lewis. He kicked an outstanding goal late in that game that just really gave the Hawks the breathing space they needed. And it was...
They just seemed to find those outlets in the last, though, didn't they? Like,
Yeah.
Wingard had a great game. They found a Lewis. That's where a Bruce is so dangerous, that he can just bob up late like that as well.
Yeah, it was full credit to the Hawks. The Lions have had their colours lowered just on the fact they're top two, and we thought they were the challengers to Nam, and if they're going to drop games to Hawthorn, it's...
Well, it goes back to what we said a few weeks ago. It's the same with the Swans. You want to trust these teams, but this kind of game just sort of rocks you a little bit. Like, if they're going to approach Melbourne, then they'd win this one, wouldn't they? If they're going to approach the D's, or do you think the Tassie factor?
Yes, but there's a Tassie factor. So with Sydney, they've had a few now. Like, they've lost to the Suns, they've lost to the Blues, who a lot of people still don't want to give the credit to. I am, but I know you said you do, but the sort of a slight query on the Blues when it comes down to crunch time, I guess, in finals. Who else have the Swans lost to?
Who got them earlier? Oh, good question. They haven't played Freo. Yeah, question without notice, that one. I'm trying to think, actually, off the top of my head.
With the magic of smartphones, we can just find out, Tom. So they rolled the Bombers, got rolled by the Suns.
Going back through it.
Lost to the Lions by 24.
Which was at home, so that's a query.
Beat the Hawks, beat Sydney, just beat North. Lost to the Dogs.
Yeah, the Dogs, that's the one I was trying to remember.
Beat the Cats and just beat the Giants. Like, we can trust them. They just seem to be dropping a few. I just think that games are so hard to win, and if you're off a little bit and then things are against you, and that's the whole Tassie thing is Brisbane. I don't know if you've got flights direct from Brisbane to Launceston. Maybe you do, but it's an extra hour onto already a 3 hour flight. So they're just... all those little things come and play into it. And if you're off your game, you're off your game. And that's why I give more credit to Nam. They've won 10 straight, and they're going to keep winning, Tom.
Look, that's fair.
But it just... the one thing that stuck out in this game, there was 36 free kicks to 27. So that's 63 free kicks, which is...
That's
too many.
High. Yeah.
But do you reckon that led to more goals? Just as an overall concept, if they're not blowing their whistle and stopping the game and giving possession back to a team, it's a 50-50 ball in dispute. So,
well, yeah, I guess on that logic, yeah, it would be. I mean, but that's sort of, yeah, I guess it's a control over the game. They're putting in people's hands. You're right. So, yeah.
See, my thing about those games are, and they happen. I mean, I think this is a record for free kicks in a game this century. So that's post 2000. They don't umpire finals like this. So it's annoying. It's annoying that that's how some of these games get umpired, but in the finals, they must be told to be a little bit more lenient on some of these decisions, even though when you break them down, they're probably all there. Like, it's just, they don't
it's one of those, yeah, it's one where they, yeah, you just want the umpires to swallow the whistle. I guess it's probably a technical game in that they've looked for all those technical free kicks. I guess technical free kicks are free kicks, but I don't know. There's, I guess in our game of interpretation, you do have the ability to let some of them go. rather than pulling them all up. So I think, yeah, I didn't know that stat of this century, but I guess, look, I probably prefer less free kicks and less goals, to be honest. I don't know where you sit on that. I mean, do you want to see 70 free kicks a week if it gets 100 to 100 scoreline? Because
Yes.
I enjoy 100 points as much as the next, but I don't want to see 70 free kicks a game.
Well, I'd probably take it if it gets the scoring up like that. But you can't guarantee it does, and if it did, then
Yeah.
there's a whole bigger question at play of umpire integrity at that point. But look, my issue is they can do that in every game if they want to. There are so many dubious free kicks. Did he get him high? Was it a push? Was he blocking in the marking contest? I mean, if they paid that consistently, they could pick out an extra 20 a game without trying.
Yeah, fair.
It's more an observation on this one that it was whistle heavy and then they've sort of hit that number. But, full credit to the Hawks, young developing list. To grade them, Tom, high distinction.
Well, yeah, you've got to give them a high distinction as well. I was thinking, so last week, absolutely smashed in the clearances, the Hawks. I think the week before you had Tom Mitchell. He didn't play last week, but the week before they're trialling him off half back, if I'm not mistaken. This week, he's straight back in doing what he does best, and he brought John Newcombe with him, and they were great in the middle. So, he's swinging the magnets around Mitchell and trying to get the balance right. But I think they do seem to have a lot of that inside grunt. So I would tend to, I know you're trying to bring the players through, but you steer into your strengths. So it was good to see the Hawks do that, and it got the job done. So massive for them. They're still in that hunt for a final spot, which we didn't think we'd be saying at round 10. So it's a HD for sure. And the Lions
coordinator.
Yeah, I think I'm going to fail them. But they were close to a coordinator. But you've gone the whole hog. Look.
Yep, they should have been 9-1. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. They should have. They're better than Hawthorn, and they wet the bed.
There it is. There's your headline to take into tomorrow. Look, if we're talking grades, they're a failed one off maybe a coordinator for me. It wasn't pretty, but I'll fail them maybe because they've got some credits in the bank. Last game of the week, over in Freo.
This is one for the footy purists, Tom.
Absolutely. There's a lot of Pies fans who get very vocal, so I'm sure they watched it, but bit of an upset on the cards. We've sort of talked of Sydney being a little bit of a rut, but are the Dockers, have they hit a bit of a wall?
Yeah,
this game was up for the taking. 6 goals at home. This is the kind of game you just want them to bank.
You'd think Freo win this 80-44, not the other way around. At home against the bottom 10 side, they're in form. Freo. I've got 2 queries about this game and the wet weather. Before I get to that, Optus Stadium, not built for wet weather footy. If you spend that much money on a stadium, why not put a roof on? Just a question, just a general question. Because you build a new stadium, you put a roof on, then you have perfect footy. Why wouldn't you do it? Bizarre.
Well, look, we do have a lot of Perth listeners. Send us something, 12rowsback@gmail.com. I think they're mainly your family, to be fair, that are over there. But
don't have any family in Perth, Tom, so...
Oh, well, that have connections in Perth? Do they have connections in Perth?
Follow the teams.
Oh, okay, well, maybe I've stretched that out.
They can count.
Yeah, I'll count that. But, look, I'm guessing, how often... I mean, Perth's annual rainfall's probably not that high. I think they just rolled the dice on that one. They're expensive roofs, so they probably got as good a stadium as they could afford.
Why are we going to build one on the MCG that's the perfect stadium? I'm told all the time it's the perfect stadium, and why would you want to go anywhere else? We'll have the grand final here all the time.
And was that in the media?
That they're going to build a roof, or that it's perfect?
Yeah. No, the roof.
Oh, no, that's been floated as part of this redevelopment.
Oh, geez, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I'm stunned they want to do it, but I digress. The ground didn't hold up under the weather, and it's the first time I can recall it being wet. But I'm in 2 minds about Freo in this game. So they played Gold Coast last week in the wet over there. So they should have been accustomed to the wet conditions. and they should have adjusted better than Collingwood. They sort of didn't early on, but it was a bit of a sloppy game. But then I factor in, I bring this up all the time, the Perth to Queensland road trip is the biggest in footy. And so they've gone over there, had a tough slog, come back, and then get into another tough slog. And it makes sense as to Collingwood were able to kick more goals and just be a bit fresher in the game. So
that's true, but I guess Melbourne to Perth isn't a short flight either. I know it's not as long, but that one's still long.
Yeah, but who did they play last week, the Pies? Probably at home at the MCG.
Yeah, bloody hell, I need to look at the fixture. Who did they play last week?
They played the Dogs at Marvel, and that was
Dogs
a travesty.
at Marvel on a Friday night.
Travesty that it was at Marvel, but they've had 2 extra days rest. Have they had 2 extra or 1 extra? Yeah, 2
Friday
extra,
night, so 2 extra, yeah.
And Freo played Sunday. But the trip off the heavy legs is the thing I probably didn't think about or factor in when sort of looking into the game. And I didn't realise it was going to be this wet initially. But you still have to give full credit to the Pies for going over there and doing that, because you'd think Freo were just a better side and would still get the job done.
Absolutely. I mean, they had good ins this week, though, the Pies. Pendles, Elliott back, Ginnivan. So, some likely types. Obviously not putting them all under the same bar, because one is vastly better than the other two, that being Pendles. But
thanks for clarifying.
Yep, just so you know. We did speak last week about the Pies and not being able to find that great forward really, well, the last 20 years at least. They still haven't found it, but I mean, Ollie Henry bobbed up with 4. I enjoyed his game. Another just good quality family that we're seeing bob up. There's a couple of sets of brothers going all right out there. But
is that Jack Henry from Geelong?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right.
So another I guess, a couple down at Geelong and brothers elsewhere. I mean, yeah, they just put the clamps on them in that first half. Freo they just could not score. Yeah, I know you said conditions and legs, but they switched on the Pies. They did come to play, and then they were just able to hold them off and steady. So, I was fully impressed by them, and I'm not worried about Freo, but they've really taken the sting out of next week's game against the D's, haven't they? Like they're not coming in fresh and crisp. They're coming in with some cuts and bruises really into that one.
Well, it's going to be a shorter break for them versus the D's. D's at home, Freo travelling. Like that's just one of the realities of being an interstate team. Like Melbourne were on the road this week, but it has a little bit. And the thing about it is, you talk about banking the points, and Freo have still got 7 wins, but it's games against the Gold Coast and Collingwood that they should have won, and I'd probably say they should have beaten the Saints at home up in the last quarter, but that's more of a toss-up now as we look back. It's okay to drop one in there, maybe 2 and be 8-2, but 7-3, and now you play Melbourne, Nam and Brisbane in consecutive weeks. I'm pretty sure that's right. It is.
Yep.
You drop Brisbane at home, but still,
now you have doubts.
Don't think they're going to win both of those. They need to split them to go 8-4. 8-4 is very different to 7-5.
Oh, it's 7-5, and we're seeing on the ladder there's a pack. So I did mention the live ladder. I mean, teams are jumping from 4th down to 8th, back up. And then you've got your Port Adelaide's, your Doggies, and Hawks and Suns and Pies. There's plenty, but bashing that door down. So, you just don't want to get in a rut. I mean, it's an okay point of the season, I guess, if you are going to drop a couple, because it's not sort of, that looming September in the next month putting a bit of weight on. But it's just a young group, so I'm just sussing out how they're going to come out of this one. Given that, we probably pencil them in probably for the last 2 weeks for wins against the Suns and Pies, and they've gone zipping too. But they, have credits in the bank, but it's a bit of a wait and see. So grade-wise, I've got to give the Pies a HD.
Yep.
Go over there
Agreed.
And beat the Dockers on their home deck is massive, and it's a fail for the Dockers. They've got credits in the bank with me. I'll fail them for this one.
Yeah, I will fail them as well, just once I factored in the shorter break and the weather and the wet. And you don't play in the wet anymore, Tom. It's not like the 80s and the the mud pit at Moorabbin.
Yeah, I
You
know it
know,
is way cleaner than that. I'll tell you that.
the grounds are good, conditions are better. It's all recovery this and get through this session through the week, that and all that sort of stuff. So disappointing, but look, they're still 7-3, so still a bit to play for. And that's 9 games with a few
Snappy.
little issues on the way, Tom. Is there a game you're looking forward to next week?
Yeah, it's
Sunday
it's got to
1:10
be.
at Marvel.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that one's going to be massive for us. Just to, I feel like we haven't played you for a while. I know it was probably about this time last year, but it's usually stays fresh in the memory. You're still reminding me of round 1, 2020. So we remember things, but no, it's got to be the D's
I
v the
don't think I've
Dockers. I know I
spoken
said
to you
the
about
Sting.
that ever.
Oh, well, some other Roos fans I know, one that needs to pull over and send us a question. But it's got to be that D's Dockers game. Yes, I said the Sting's out of it, but it's still a headline act. I mean, it'd be a famous, famous win, and otherwise the D's just continue to make statements. So for the D's fans out there, I'll go in with a clear head. I won't think of what you should do and grade it based on that. I'll just go in and just see what you produce on the day. How about that for D's fans?
Yep, I'm sure they'll believe you and hold you to your word when you say that, Tom. Swans Tigers Friday night. We'll get a look in from me, and the 3:20 Collingwood Carlton slot. Someone tell me how that goes, because traditional rivals, Collingwood will be looking to really knock Carlton off their perch. They'll want nothing more. Carlton should be 9-2 when we do this speak next week, Tom. There's no reasons they shouldn't be.
No, exactly. I'm with you. They've turned a corner this year. Got the Pies coming back from WA, and they've got the confidence. So it's over to them. They win this.
That after we get through next week, that'll be officially halfway. Then we'll know where teams are at. We can start doing some mid-season awards.
Yes, I love the mid-season awards.
Season's great, and we might have a top 8 just about formed.
I like it. Bring it on. We learn more every week, Seb. I'm looking forward to it.